Hey friends, welcome back to the channel with more My Hero Academia. This is Season 3, Episode 2, and last episode was mostly a recap of the first two seasons, so I'm excited this episode to get into the summer training camp arc. The teachers have made efforts to hide where they're going, so hopefully our students will be okay, but in the meantime the villains seem to be planning for something themselves. I don't know what, but looking forward to finding out. If you guys want to watch the full reaction, you can check out Patreon in the link in the description below. Leave a like, really helps out the channel, and let's get started. So YouTube has been blocking my reactions to My Hero Academia, so the rest of this video is just going to be the commentary, but you can still see the reaction in the link in the description below. We're going to do this for the rest of Season 3. I'll tinker around with Season 4 when I get to it to see if I can get around the copyright issue, but not too optimistic about that. But again, you can check it out still, and let's get on to the commentary. So, All For One is in the opening credits, and seeing him this time around made me think about how his quirk works and how One For All works. So for One For All, the original holder's original quirk was to pass down quirks from one person to the next, and then he got the stockpiling power from All For One. So theoretically, if somebody who already has a quirk got One For All, firstly, their current quirk would get much stronger, but then also they should be able to pass down that second quirk, right? I mean, unless they were all quirkless like All Might and Deku. It doesn't seem like that is the case because All Might knows that One For All would make existing quirks so much stronger. He explained as much about Todoroki back when Deku was first asking him about if he was the best choice to be his successor. So maybe it'll be explained at some point why the quirks of previous holders don't get passed down. Or maybe they do and they just can't use those quirks publicly since it would be a bit of a giveaway that One For All is passed down from one person to the next. But then they would have manifested in some way with Deku already, right? I guess having so many quirks would make the holder of One For All a little too overpowered. But maybe that's what's necessary to take down All For One, right? I don't know. There's a lot to think about there. But meanwhile, during this episode, the League of Villains seems to already know where the kids are. That or they're talking about something else entirely. Seems like they're talking about the kids, though. Shigaraki was saying he tried so hard to find out where those idiots are, so I assumed he was talking about the students. But All For One found them, not Shigaraki, which... All For One is super frustrating because he's been around for many years, and it's very possible that he has a quirk out there that could let him get that information about where anybody is. Because Shigaraki said he'd figured it out in an instant, so he could have an informant, I guess, but the more likely thing is that he has a quirk that lets him tell where certain people are, or just be able to gather information. And he spent maybe a century amassing useful quirks, because how many holders have there been? I think All Might is the 8th, so Deku's the 9th. Assuming each one has the quirk for about 30 some years, I mean, that would be 200 something years already. So I have to imagine he's got some really rare and powerful quirks. Anyway, our students are headed on their summer training camp. Uraraka, she's so cute. She runs up to Deku proclaiming how excited she is and gets so close that she makes Deku freak out quite a bit. Deku, understandably, predictably, gets super flustered, and it triggers that memory in Uraraka of Aoyama asking her if she likes Deku, which means she understood how flustered he was, right? So maybe that's a tiny clue for her that she has an effect on him in that way. Though I feel like he'd be super flustered with any girl getting that close, so maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, Uraraka's super cute. She starts chanting, "Camp! Camp! Camp!" And our local airheads, Mina and Kaminari, both join in on the chant. They're so silly, but so funny at the same time. Mineta is super excited because he gets to creep on the girls from 1A and 1B. So, yeah. Am I onto something with my theory? The reason he's so short is that he refuses to grow taller. That way he can keep his eye level at the height of girls' butts. Is that it just makes too much sense for it not to be true, right? And then they come upon the wild Pussycats, which are a lot. They're here to fulfill the feline fantasies of these high school students. I mean, that just sounds wrong. I don't... And then Pixie Bob is at the age where she's trying to find a mate, apparently, so she calls dibs on those 4 high school kids. Ah, man. And yeah, Mandalay says she's so eager because she's at the age to take a mate. Ah, jeez. Just what the heck. The show really just does not care about adults being like hypersexual around kids and actually being predatory towards kids. And like, fine, like if you want to be looking for a mate, erase her heads there if you're that desperate. Not the children. Come on, they're like half her age. Not that she would ever admit that. She still had the heart of an 18-year-old, apparently. But yeah, Deku was super psyched to see the Wild Wild Pussycats saying they've been around since they were kids, like 12 years ago. Pixie Bob desperately wanted to hide her age. It's interesting because it's a common joke that women don't want to admit how old they are, but I'm not sure I've ever seen any real life women like that do that, unless a bunch of women have just lied to me about their age and I don't know about it. Actually, my mom did lie to me once about her age. She actually told me that she was 10 years younger than my dad, but I also knew that they met in school. So when I mentioned that to her, she told me that my dad got left behind 10 times and that's how they met, which is just a brazen lie. It's such a brazen lie that it's almost impressive. So they're actually the same age and they met in school. Not he's 10 years older and he got left behind 10 times. That is not true. But yeah, I guess it's just not something I come across very often where women lie about their age that much. But yeah, Class 1A fight through a bunch of earth monsters created by Pixie Bob to get to the training camp, which I hope they were scavenging along the way or else they just didn't eat for a very, very long time. Given how ravenous they were after that fight, after getting to the facility, I guess they just didn't have time to find food. But yeah, it really shows the gulf between the students and the pros, though, because Todoroki, Bakugo, Deku, and Ida probably have way more raw power. And also Tokoyami. They have a lot more raw power than a lot of pro heroes, probably. Plus, they had 20 people with different quirks to adapt to a bunch of different situations. And it still took them, I think, 8 hours to get to the facility, when Mandalay said it'd take her and Pixie Bob like 3 hours. Which means that, yeah, the difference between pros and students are still very, very vast. But it also means that with enough hard work, any of the students in the class could emerge and perhaps surpass our current top 4 heroes in the future. They might not win against them in power or in a one-on-one, but they could find themselves more useful as heroes in a variety of situations. Basically, what I'm hoping for is that the hierarchy within the class doesn't stay the same for the full 3 years they're in school, because I do think it is pretty obvious who the top 3, 4, or maybe 5 are. Ida and Tokoyami rounding up the top 5, but I would like to see it get shuffled around a bit throughout their high school careers. And it was fun watching them tear through those monsters, though. Hakagure was just being used as bait. I mean, it's just, but they all seem to work together, which is cool. Hakagure just, I don't know, she can't do anything. How does she be? I mean, she's good for sneaking around. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it seems like it's very limited in its scope, and it's limited in the situations that it would be useful in for hero work. We meet Koda. His character feels a lot like Inari from Naruto, who loved his father but hated him for leaving him by standing up for what he feels was right. So it feels like we'll have a pretty similar story arc here with Kota. It's like someone in our class will likely save him from something and it'll start changing his heart. I'm going to guess it's going to be Deku, given that he punched Deku straight in the groin, which that hurt just watching. But yeah, we learned from Mandalay that his parents were heroes who died, and he feels like they just left him. It's really sad. And that was preceded by the bath scene, which Mineta, this frickin' boy, just climbing that wall with his balls. Oh, so he was just, oh my god. He's just, I'm sorry guys, I have a bit of a headache, so I'm like frustrating. I'm not able to talk clearly. Yeah, he was just climbing the wall with his balls so eagerly, only to be met by Koda at the top. He got shoved off and his butt landed in Tenya's face, which Tenya did not deserve whatsoever. He was trying to stop him. Like, karma just did not exist in this instance. Poor Tenya. Koda got a slight nosebleed from turning around and seeing the girls, like, full on naked. Nearly fell and died, but Deku caught him by the head. It's very weird to me that everybody bathes together. Like, not just all, not like, it just feels weird that they're all bathed at the same time. Like, people don't take turns. There's just one communal bath, even if it's split by gender. It's just a totally different culture. Anyway. But yeah, everyone is up early for training the next morning, though. Bakugo only made small gains to his power with the ball throw. And Aizawa makes a good point that they learned a ton of practical stuff and didn't focus on the strength of their quirks. But then, I feel like they should be doing a bit of everything early on, shouldn't they? Like, you get so many more gains from training at like 10% capacity for an entire semester than you get going at 100% for a week or two at the end of the year. That just, it doesn't make any sense. But this is the way they've chosen to do it because it makes for a better anime trope and anime montage, I guess. But of course, Deku just did get stronger just by learning how to use his quirk and by strengthening his own body. So he might have actually had a pretty big power boost just from doing exercises all day. I don't know. Seems smarter. It feels like it would be smarter to train everyone at everything throughout the semester instead of not training their quirks at all for such a long period of time. But this was a fun, silly episode. The face that Mina Ashido made at the end when Aizawa was gonna put them through the ringer with this training, that was super funny. I'll put that in right here. You can see it. But yeah, pretty hyped to see how they focus on making their quirks stronger and how will their quirks get better. Like, will Kirishima get harder? Will Mineta's balls get stickier? God, those both sound super wrong. One thing I have been wondering but keep forgetting to ask is, or keep forgetting to say is, with Yaoyorozu's quirk, like, we've heard it takes a while to create something large, and everything she creates seems to come out like relatively slowly. But could she somehow like squeeze a cannonball out of her skin really hard and send it flying? That way she wouldn't have to create the cannon to fire the cannonball. I feel like that would be super useful, but I don't know if that's at all possible. Again, with Hakagure, I don't know how she gets stronger. She can't become more invisible, right? Like, could she learn to completely erase her existence? And I don't know, I don't know how she gets stronger. But yeah. Alright, this is going to be an 8.5 for this episode. Excited to see how this training camp turns out. Let's get on to the next one. If you want to watch the full reaction for this episode, you can check out Patreon in the link to... jeez, I can't talk today. You can check out the link in the description below. Leave a like, really, really helps out the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, friends.